Okay, so hello and welcome back to another Unity tutorial, but in this one we're not going to actually be delving into Unity, we're going to be using Blender. If you don't know what Blender is, it's a 3D modeling software that's free. Obviously there's more than modeling, you can do sculpting and texturing and more than that, we'll get into that. But the point is it's a free software. There are other alternatives that people use like Autodesk Maya and 3ds Max, I think is one of them, and there's quite a few others. But Blender's known to be like the free, easily accessible one. So that's by no means saying it's best in every way, but the point is it's very easy to get your hands on and try. I don't think I'll need to leave a link to it in the description, but I mean it's as simple as searching Blender or blender.org or whatever. The version I'm using is version, let me just check. My mouse is gone. Version 2.79, so if you're on that version or earlier, then everything will be fine. If you're on a newer version, then something might have changed. Some things might have changed, but hopefully not much. There is a new beta version out at the moment that I don't think currently works with Unity, but they might have fixed that by the last time I checked. So just make sure you know what you're doing in terms of the versioning before you actually start and get problems with your model and then start asking me why is it not working on the model version that I haven't tried yet. So yeah, just keep that in mind. So we're going to be modeling a simple static object. Obviously by static I don't mean in the scene it can move around, yeah, but it's not going to be animated. And then after I've done this video or this 2 or 3 videos, however long it takes, I'll then move on to doing actual like rigged and animated things. So it'll be like kind of getting a bit more difficult after this introduction to people who haven't like modeled before. So it's kind of like a beginner intro to Blender. I've already done a video on why you should use Blender in your game, but I didn't go really into Blender that much. So this is like a proper mini series I'm going to do, just a few videos on modeling like a crate. So in my game I've got this like crate here. I'm going to use this as the thing to model, our like tutorial thing goal to make, and then we'll make like a character that's animated or something when we get onto that afterwards. So this video, we're just going to model this thing and then get it into Unity. I've got like an empty test scene here, so we're just going to model, export it, and then next video we can UV unwrap it and texture it and do the occlusion, and we'll just get into that. So first of all you need is Blender. I'm actually going to quickly thank my patrons. Thanks to Michael, Paul Robinson, Phil Bottom, and Wesley for their donations on Patreon this month. If anyone else would like to help out, then the link is in the description below. But apart from that, let's get into it. So we have an empty Blender scene. So when you make a Blender scene, you might have a camera and a cube and some other things. So all you need to do is you need to right click on them, which obviously is nothing for me to right click on. Let's just okay, so let's say we have my cube here. We'll just pretend I'm starting where you are. So we've got a cube. You just right click on it, press delete, and then a little pop-up box appears. By delete I mean the del key on your keyboard, or delete, whatever it's called on yours. Just press delete and it's gone. So we want nothing in the scene, just world on here. So this is the starting point. To look around, you press in your mouse button, like the mouse wheel, just press that in and then you can spin around. I assume key bindings are the same for everyone. I don't think I've changed mine, so it should be fine. Now we're in object mode, which means it's just the default view. We want to be in edit mode, but we can't be in edit mode without any objects. Now I know I just told you to delete the starting cube, but we want to actually start with a cube. So we're gonna just click anywhere, just Shift A. Shift A brings up the add menu. So we've got quite a lot of options here, and all we want in our scene is a cube. So just simply add a cube. It's got scaling of 1. You can spin around it. There's our cube. We could export that to Uni and be done. File, save as. And then I need to actually, for the sake of this video, go to my Unity games now. I've called this video like Blender tutorial or something. So I'm just going to save it into the assets and call it crate.blend. So if we go back into Unity, it's going to tell you, wait, something's appeared. Crate.blend, and it's just a cube. So if we go to our scene, boom, we've got a cube, but this is a Blender cube. It's got unnamed material. This is just the default, right? You've dragged it in. It's got an animator on it. It's not what we want, but it's there. Now, actually, for the sake of this, I'll leave it in the middle because then we can watch it update live as such. Now, just saying, we can sort this out now. When you import something to Unity, there are a lot of default settings on here. So the first thing is for materials. Well, we can actually sort that out later when we do the materials. Animation, we don't want any animation on this, so just disable the input animation. For rig, we don't want any rigs because there's no animation or any rigging of that kind. And then on here, there's none of this we want to change right now, but we can change some of this later if we want. So it's absolutely fine. Just press apply. We can actually tweak some of these settings later if we want it to look a bit different. But yeah, that's just it. Import your object. It's got a cube and a mesh renderer, Then you can even prefab it, whatever. But it's got its own prefab when you import a model. Just leave that. It's fine. Just got a cube. Not done anything to it yet. Now, as we work on this, we can save, look back, and it'll change. So what we want to do is we want to select the object with right click. There we go. You can look around it. Now, if we press tab, we go into edit mode. So that's pressing tab. Edit mode has that's for actually, changing things with your shape. Object mode is like the just moving stuff around. There's, it doesn't really give you as much control. Whereas when you're in edit mode, you can change faces, vertices, edges. So just a quick rundown. Vertices are corner points. These, connecting dots that basically are coordinates where stuff is connected. Edges are the lines that connect the vertices. So every edge has a vertex on either end. And then we've got face, which is obviously where the vertices and edges come together to make a full face, I guess, full shape. So what do we want to do? Well, for this crate that we've got over here, we want to get this kind of edge look where we've got the gaps, not the gaps, but the kind of inwards bits on the cube. So the way we're going to go about doing that is we're going to select an edge, so any one of the edges. We'll take the top one. And we want to use the extrude tool, which is a very common tool. Sorry about the police outside. So if you press E for extrude, it appears like this. Now what it's doing is it's actually adding more faces and edges and vertices onto the top of your object or onto the face that you're extruding. It's like you're just grabbing and pulling out part of something. Now if we go back, so right click, Control Z to undo. If I just drag this face normally, notice how what happens is it stretches everything else with it. So this face is now stretched like a rectangle. Whereas if I press E, it makes a cutoff point and we've got a new side. So the difference is if I scale this, so S to scale, or R, so it's R to rotate and S to scale. So if I pressed, if I scaled it down, it would point in. Whereas if I pressed E to extrude, cancel it, so we've still extruded. If you look here, we've got these little black dots for our faces. And then I scale, notice how it doesn't stretch the rest of the object because I'm now scaling the extruded face, not the original one. The original face here is connected to these corners, whereas when I extrude, it's like adding a layer of stuff between it, and then I scale that or move that and it's separate. So I can do whatever I want to this now. So now that I've got this extra just basically dummy face on top, at the moment there's kind of two faces overlapping, so we want to do something with that. So we want to press scale, so S, and we can drag it down. Now as you see, when you're dragging down here, we've got some numbers at the bottom left. I can't actually mouse over there because when you're scaling and stuff, your mouse goes off one side and comes back on the other. So the point is you move your mouse and you scale it up and down. Now we want to scale it till it's about here. So if you look around here, look at the number at the bottom left, it's around 0.8, 0.9. So if we just manually put .8 for 0.8, it'll set it and we press enter. So this has been scaled down to 0.8, imagining that the full thing is, size 1. Now, if you go back into edit object mode by pressing tab, it just goes back and nothing's happened. We haven't moved the face, we've just kind of made more faces. So what we want to do is we want to grab this face, we want to move it down. But you see the problem is, because this face is connected to the rest, it bends down with it, like it's gone on a dip. Now you might want that to happen, but not for this crate. So what we're going to do is we're going to press E to extrude again, and we're just going to right click to cancel it. And now we've got this extra face we can do stuff with. So we can put it up, put it down. Now we want to go down, so let's go down to about 0.1. Now notice how that's actually higher. So we want 0.1, but actually make that negative. So negative 0.1. Now, does that look about the right, denting inwards? I think it's fine. So let's say we're happy with that face. We can then Control save. Okay, so we've got that face done. So now if I go back into Unity, notice how this face on here is, it's got the indent that we've just modeled, which is pretty cool. The reason why it's on its side with 0, 0, 0 is probably because we're actually on our side in here, because the Y is upwards, so, and the X is forwards. I'm struggling to actually get the view, but the point is, so Y is up. Yeah, you get the point though. The y-axis is upwards, so that's why that's facing us as this is facing us here if we're on this side. So what else do we want to do? Well, we want to get this on every side, basically. Now, I don't know any super quick way of doing it to every side of this, but to be honest, it's not exactly a lengthy task anyway. So you just want to go select a face, scale, extrude, so E, right-click, scale, 0.8. E, right-click, and then push in 0.1, but then it's actually minus 0.1. Okay, that's two faces done. There you go. E, right click, scale 0.8. E, push in 0.1. Negative 0.1. Okay, that's three faces done. So we go E, right click, scale 0.8. E, right click, drag inwards 0.1. The reason why I didn't have to do negative there is because pushing it that way is actually already in the right direction, whereas the other way was against it, so I had to do negative. Just try one. If it doesn't work, then do it the other way. You can always press undo. So I want to go E, right click, scale 0.8, push in, oh sorry, no, E, right click, push in 0.1. Okay, so we've got all these faces done and the top one, so now let's go to the bottom one. E, right click, scale 0.8, E, right click, push in 0.1. Okay, now if I just save that, notice how back in Unity, all the faces are done. We've actually got that on all the faces now. Obviously the lighting is a bit hard for it to see, but it'll be better when we've got actual textures on and stuff. Also, I could take the directional light and we could, obviously have some ambient lighting. Now these weird things you see with the shadow is just because these faces are too close basically. To be honest, that shadow quality, if you actually go into your shadow settings, you can fix that kind of thing or smooth it out a bit. But for now, we won't bother. We've got our object. So the last thing we want to do is add these crate planks across them. So the simplest way to do that, or the way I think of doing it, is we want to go into object mode. So not the one where we can see all the faces. Press tab so you go into object mode, and we want to shift a new mesh called. We want a new cube basically. Now this cube, we just want to go into edit mode. So what do we want to do with the cube? Let's say we want to drag it over here, and we might want to one note, when you press S to scale, it scales it on all axes if you've selected the entire object. So make sure you've got this object. A selects all vertices of the object you've currently got selected, so all vertices. If you scale, it scales everything. But if you press S and while you're scaling you press X, Y, or Z, you can scale just in the Z, just in the X, or just in the Y. So what we're going to do is we're going to say scale just in the Y. Let's get the plank to be about that thick. And then we will rotate, so R. We want to rotate just on the X-axis in this case. Just press whichever one it is you need to rotate on to 45 degrees. So we got it vertically. Why did I say vertically? It's not even vertical or horizontal. It's actually a mixture. It's directly diagonal. So what would we want to do? Well, now that we're looking at it like this, we can press F5, which gives us a isometric view rather than an orthographic view, not a perspective view. So we can see it flat on. Right now it's with depth, but right now it's not. So we know basically where we are. Now obviously we kind of want to get it right in these corners, so what I'll do is I'll just put it back actually. We're going to now look at a side on and push it towards. Now one thing is you'll notice it's a bit too thick unless you want it sticking out. So scale on the X-axis, so we'll just scale it down to about that thin. And we'll slowly push that to the side. And as you can see, when these orange lines disappear around here is when it's overlapping with the crate, basically. Now, that's kind of touching there. If you look, if we zoom in with a scroll wheel, this is kind of touching, but not really. I think it's just about perfect. We'll do with that. So we've got that crate in its position where it should be. So now all we have to do is we have to select this one. And we can do Shift D to duplicate, right click to get rid of the duplication, and then we can rotate. Now when you rotate in Blender, you rotate around a given point. Now because our axis in the center is straight down here, when we rotate we can just type in an angle like 90, and as you notice it's now in the right position. So we can right click, Shift D, rotate on the Z by 90, and again Shift D, rotate on the Z by 90, and you'll see we have these on all four sides. And now we want to get them on the top, so what we can do is we can say get this, rotate on the Y-axis by 90, and we'll get the bottom one. And then I missed one of the middle faces, so get this one, Shift D, rotate on the X in this case. Oh, wait, Z by 90 in this case. Sorry. So we've got all those around there, and we've got the bottom one. And now for the top one, select this one. It doesn't really matter. Just select any face. Shift D. Rotate on the Y. On the X by 90, or by minus 90 in this case. And there you have it. You've actually got all of these planks on each side perfectly placed. So if we go back to Unity, you'll see they should all appear. Now, we're not really done. There's some tied up we kind of want to do. Because as you notice in the crate, these are all separate objects. Now, you might want them to be, but in reality, for something like this that doesn't break or anything, you might want them just to be the same object. So one thing you can do is you can select all objects, so just select them all. In object mode, press A to select all. And you can just put, is it join, I think? Yep, join. And what it does is it joins it into one object. So you still got all your vertices, but the point is it's just one object. Now, the benefit to this is that, it's just one object, easier to manage. You've not got parts that can, be detached. Maybe you do want things that can be detached, but the point is it's just one object now, which isn't a problem. Also, when you're working with Blender files, you get these blend ones that create themselves. You can delete them, but they're backup files, and Blender is notorious for having slight problems where you need to go to a backup because stuff sometimes you try and undo and you can't undo far enough or something like that. It's a problem. So this video is 16 minutes. I feel like I'm going to end this now, and maybe I'll do another video right now, or maybe tomorrow. I'll do a finishing off video. So what we'll do is we'll basically take all these faces, we'll unwrap them, which is basically putting them onto a flat 2D texture, and then we can say what colors we want each thing to be, and then we'll save that onto the texture sheet, make a material in Blender for this object, and then it will perfectly map our colors to the texture. You could make a separate material in Unity for each thing if I kept it separate objects, but that's not very good to have lots of materials for different parts of a single object, because each material has its own draw calls. And if you have loads of different materials over the same object, you're just using more than you need. It's best to have one material, or as little materials as possible. Now, obviously, materials are just shaders, but front end. So if you have a shader that you only want to apply to a certain part of your model, then of course you might need to have that part of the model in a different shader. So I'm thinking maybe if you have an in my game, I've got this enemy, and its eyes are glowing, for example. So if I go to scene, test scene I've just been working on. Actually, yeah, I put it in my test scene as well as the other one. These enemies here that I've made, the eyes material I want to glow and do maybe I want to tweak the glowing on the eyes. So I've made the eyes a separate material. But apart from that, the body's the same material. And also you'll notice these are really smooth when actually they're jagged edges, they've got, the vertices. So when you import something to Blender, like a model, you can change this import to be calculate and then drag this angle up, press apply, and it'll actually smooth out edges. But I don't think it's very noticeable in here, actually. Maybe it's just because our crate is so... I don't know if it's actually because of the crate or it's because the lighting... Let me just put these back to import. I don't want to mess with these settings because one thing is I haven't used the new version. Apparently they've updated some stuff on here since I've last used it. My game's version has different settings than these. They're mainly the same, but some are different. But anyway, so yeah, I hope you picked up some stuff here with making this crate. It's quite simple, but obviously it's to get people into it because we're going to get quite a bit more complicated when we start making the player. But yeah, the main things to remember are just the hotkeys. So tab to go between the modes, right click to select vertices, or you can change here. So this is selecting edges and this is selecting faces. You can press E to extrude. Just remember, if you extrude by accident and you don't want to, and you've cancelled it, you might still have extruded and got the faces. So you make sure you press Ctrl Z to undo that, or otherwise you get overlapping faces and it just becomes a pain. So you can extrude, you can scale, you can rotate. You can do whatever you want. R to rotate, S to scale, E to extrude. Most of the things that you want to do are numbered. If you want to do something and you forget the hotkey, you can actually press spacebar and type in extrude, and you can look up different things. Extrude. Now obviously when you type that in, there's more options, but E, the hotkey one, is right at the top, so you can just press that and it shows you how to do it. So Blender's quite there's plenty of buttons to get confused with. I don't know what half of them do, but it's very intuitive what stuff does. So I hope you like that. Just remember to regularly save, check your thing in Blender, see how it's looking, and yeah, I'll teach you how to do the texturing next video. So thank you for watching. If you haven't already liked and subscribed, it'd mean a lot if you did. The Discord server link should be in the description below. Apart from that, thanks for watching and goodbye.